Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to do two different quarter page reflection cards here. Okay, now what I mean by that is a reflection card is just where you take a card base like this, and I have adhered a piece of reflective mirrored foil onto this base right here. Okay, so it's just standard gold cardstock. Okay, it's not printable vinyl metallics or something like that. It's just regular cardstock. Okay, what we're going to be doing on this is making impressions using StazOn ink. Okay, but I'm going to use two different types of scene bases for my scenes up top. Just it'll make things go fairly quickly, but you can see that reflective quality in using that type of mirrored stock down there. On this one, I'm using the gold, but silver works really well too. And you can probably go with other types of foils out there. There's probably blue ones and things like that. If you want to go with the blue tone scene up top or a winter scene, I think that'd be great. But I don't know, the silver and foil are fairly common types of things. But you can see that really cool reflective nature of it in representing water or ice down below. I tend to see ice as, more of the silver type of coloring. On this one right here, we're going to use a pre-printed vintage style of paper, okay? And it has this, aged type of look to it. But the gold is a really great pairing for this one because it is this warm tone there. I just don't like that big dot of, I don't know, whatever it's supposed to represent, ink or something like that on that one. But we're going to be stamping an image right over the top of that. But we're going to be using our lakeside cabins like this, okay? Now what this represents is where the water, the shoreline would be, okay? So, I mean, you could stamp it up higher like that if you want to, if you're going to make this all into gravel or a shoreline like that. But I'm going to stamp it right down on that water line like that. I'm going to do the same composition in both cards. And, so we can just do a little comparison contrast type of thing. All right, for the imagery down below, we'll use different ink than the top imagery. All right, you could go with the StazOn up top too, but on this one, but I just have a better ink for that one, that type of paper. Okay, but let's start off with the photo print. Okay, so this is going to be photo stamping here. Hello, Linda. Hello, everyone else. I always say this, if anyone's watching live on Facebook, I can't see your comments live in the stream here. But if you make any comments, I'll check them out later if you have any questions. And if you're watching on Facebook, if you watch on the YouTube channel, the Stampscapes broadcast, then I could see live comments. Okay, so on this photo paper right here, it's just a photo print of some clouds. I have all these, I don't know, probably 30 files or something like that, photo files on my Flickr account under Kevin Nakagawa. I was trying to think if it was Stampscapes or Kevin Nakagawa. Clouds for Photo Stamping album, and you can download, whatever clouds you want for free. Print them out in your home inkjet printer, whatever you want. Okay, but on this type of paper, we're going to be using dye-based inks. Photo papers perfectly suited or geared for water-based media. It's not really, they don't make it for crafters and stamping or anything like that. It's just, it's mostly inkjet printers, home inkjet printers, okay? But those home inkjet printers use a water-based ink. So that's what the emulsion on this type of paper is geared for, okay? Okay, so now don't let this confuse you now. Okay, so I'm using a water-based ink on my photo print. I'm going to switch off when I use this paper right here, okay? Because they're two different surfaces. Now, there's universals, which can be used. But on this one, I'm going to be using some alcohol inks to color my imagery on this paper. So I don't want to use something like a StazOn because alcohol inks will dissolve a solvent ink stamped on top of photo paper. So I don't want to use that. Now, if you weren't going to color it, then you use any type of ink that you want, practically. StazOn or, this water-based dye ink. Okay. And we have that right there. Makes really good impressions right over the top of the clouds like that. And just to get our bearings like that, that's what my mirrored look will look like right here. Kind of debating on whether or not I want to stamp some other trees over to the other side of this cabin. This is a different cabin, but I've stamped these trees over here. That looks pretty good, having it open like that with the open clouds right down on the horizon like that, though. Let's keep it really simple. Let's just do that right there. Okay, now here's the thing about reflection cards, okay? You see how this is reflecting, this edge right here, down here, it goes vertical, okay? But we have this kind of flaring out this way, right? So I have that kind of triangular wedge shape showing right there. And it kind of removes me a little bit from the illusion of this being kind of a larger body of water because I can see the edges right here. You can see my finger in that reflection area down there. I mean, that's a minor thing, but, we're stampers, so we can eradicate that completely very easily here. So let's employ the use of a little bit of a taller image right here, because that'll go up there. Now, I'm trying to, get rid of that image, or that wedge, reflective wedge shape completely, but I just want to get rid of some of it, okay? Hello, Bonnie. All right, so let's go and let's do this. I'm gonna just do these at the same time. I'm gonna do both cards. By the way, one of these is a 1/4 page card, and photo prints typically come in 4x6, 3.5 by 5.5, and 5x7. So this card right here is based around a 4x6 inch, dimension. Okay. Actually, no. Here, I lied. Here. I went with the... I'll need to trim this down here, but... or is this the one here? Oh, here. I was thinking, what the heck is going on here? So this is 5.5. I kind of made these both 5.5 by 4.25 by 5.5, and I forgot, oh yeah, this is only 4 inches tall, so I just trimmed this down, the photo print down to 5.5, and I made the height 4 inches. Okay, I usually just do this. This is usually like an 8x6 folded in half, but I forgot about that with the 4x6s here. Okay, so it'll be slightly different. All right, stamping on foils down below on these two pieces. StazOn ink, okay? Go with some sort of solvent ink, something that's going to transfer, dry, and adhere to that type of surface. And StazOn's just, it's the ink that's kind of designed to dry on practically anything. My StazOn ink looks a little bit dry. Traditionally, I don't know, or historically, I haven't really used a lot of StazOn before. Until I started getting into the kind of the funky types of surfaces. Hello, Megan. How are you? Anyways, the thing about StazOn ink for me that I had to get used to is, oh my God, you got to ink it up all the time, because even if you have this kind of sealed off like this, it really dries out pretty fast. That one and the Brilliance ink. You know, the Brilliance is kind of a faster drying pigment ink. Nothing like, you know, the solvent inks. You know, Brilliance is just still a water-based ink, but and I had really had to get used to that because usually I don't ink up my like my dye-based ink pads very often. I don't need to unless I'm doing like a demonstration at a convention or something like that. Okay, I'm allowing this to transfer a little bit longer, you know, to make a little bit of a longer impression. I inked up this whole thing, but I only used one tree there. And then I'm going to use this one on the other side. Let's go a little bit lower just for a little bit of variation. Okay. One of the things that using this type of ink, on some surfaces, when you're using the StazOn, you don't want to hold it down for too long because the ink in some situations can dry in between, you know, the rubber and the surface, and then you lift it up and it's almost like adhered to that, you know, the stamp like glue or something like that. And sometimes you remove it, and a lot of the ink is on the stamp still. So some you have to make a kind of a faster impression, but play around with that and experiment a little bit. All right, so we can see that right there, and we can see these trees kind of, you know, they cover up a lot of that angled portion of it like that, okay? But even like that, I mean, I find it to be a pretty dramatic looking scene, or you can have some like light beams coming out of those clouds right over here, something like that, and it can be a really fast project. That would be a little bit, you know, too fast for me. I don't know. Not that I need to complicate things, but I do want to add some color to those trees. I'm going to add kind of the reddish tones to this one. I don't think I've done that yet with the new stamps. I don't think I've added the kind of that golden fall color scheme yet. Oh, Cynthia, you didn't miss a whole hour. Well, glad to have you. We've waited for you before. You know, we were calling you and calling, and you know, where's Megan? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Here, I'm going to be doing this again right over here. We're going to do it on this one. Let me see, which one was this one? Okay, this one was the 4-inch height. This one's the 4.5 right here. Candy, were you the one that got like a ton of the StazOns? Yeah, you were the one that was doing the blending with them, right? I think on one of your posts I did a follow-up. Wait a minute, were you blending with the StazOn, or you know what I mean? All right, same thing down at the base here. Yeah, you got a bunch of colors, didn't you? And re-inkers too, right? Was that it? Can't remember. That reminds me of something there, Megan. I used to do this, go on these hikes. It was early kind of internet social, I don't know, whatever, social networking. There was this one hiking group in Southern California called the Outdoors Club. It wasn't really anything too official or formal, I should say, like the Sierra Club or something like that. It was basically a bulletin board, and the way that it was geared was if anyone wants to lead a hike and go out hiking with other people or camping or whatever, typically outdoor stuff, you would just post it, and then you would enter this number of participants that you were willing to take with you, okay? So people would sign up. But anyways, long story short, I went with one pretty, involved hike, where people can get really lost out there because we were doing it all off trail. That was my style of hiking. But this one person was, I know we got to the summit, and I like to hang out at the summits longer than a lot of people do and just chill out because I figured, we made all this effort to get up here. Might as well enjoy it. And I don't know, they took off to be on their own, and I had no idea where they were. And I wasn't taking a roll or something like that. Hey, I need to do a head count. You know what I mean? It's, hey, you're kind of on your own on these things. And we were kind of hiking downhill, and all of a sudden I hear this little voice yelling out, hey, hey, and I looked up, and I had a little pair of hiking binoculars, and I looked up there, and it was one of the hikers that we almost left behind. I always said in my descriptions, hey, you gotta kind of stick with us, otherwise, it's really easy to get lost up, in this on this summit. All right. So I just had flashbacks just now reading that. All right, so here's some of the vintage paper. Okay, so we're gonna just do that same format here. Maybe I might fill in with this one, with some additional trees over here. But let's just see what it looks like when we start off right here. So anyways, if you just joined in, reflection card like that. I've seen, okay, so people are getting those reflection kind of stamps where you stamp out an image on just like a blank piece of rubber. You can do it on the gel plates or something like that, and then do a reverse impression in there, which I don't know, that looks really awesome. This is just a way to do it. If you want to, you can have everything you stamp up there mirrored reflection down here, but it's just in this type of format right here, okay? So on this paper, if you've been watching my videos, I really like the hybrid inks on here. I think it gives a really strong impression, but so do probably a lot of other inks. I just don't like the dye-based. The dye-based ink is the one that I think it's probably too watery to really get a good impression on here. Although, if you want to stay with the spirit of this type of paper and the nature of it, your dye-based ink inks are going to stamp a lot lighter. But if you want it to look like that kind of aged, kind of washed out, faded impression, then this would probably be good for it. But for my purposes, most of the times I want something a little bit stronger than like I don't know what it would stamp out, like a 60% gray or something like that, 50% maybe even. I like to have my impressions a little bit bolder, especially, on this type of paper too, where you're fighting with, background tone on there already. You probably want to have this reasonably dark, just to stand out a little bit more against the background. And for me, on this reflection card, this is not a mirror right here, you know what I mean? It's there's the camera that shoots all these videos, but you can see it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's not a fantastic mirrored surface like that. It's probably reflective of, I don't know, it's like a 50% reflection or something like that. So you want to have as much contrast in this top area that's reflecting to the lower area, you know what I mean, for it to read pretty well. Now you can do this on like white pieces of paper or something like that too, but this is just going to make things go a lot faster just having this pre-printed background. Like a warm sunset photo print instead of like clouds would look really fantastic too. If you ever see a really fantastic sunset or something like that, bust out your phones or something like that. I don't think people have digital cameras anymore these days, but, except on your phones, but, take a picture of it and just take a picture of the sky only. Don't have a bunch of horizon in there, and you can really utilize them for some really cool photo printing projects. Like I said, these are all these cloud ones of mine are all available for download if you want those. Let's take a look and see what this one looks like right here. I don't know if I want it so minimal right here, but that looks pretty cool too. That really works out. Sometimes these vintage papers have this, what do I call it's vignette around on the full 8.5 by 11. Okay, but this one really works really well, having it kind of dark like that and transition to the light down here. Okay, so that's why I didn't stamp it this way too, because that cabin would be in this darkness right here, unless you wanted to make a point of it, like the light is coming down or something like that. But see, this cabin stands out more in the light against this lighter background. So those are the types of considerations you have to make when stamping on these backgrounds that are already, inherently have something on them like that. You have to think about that showing through all the imagery if I took like this and stamped it like down here or something like that. Okay. All right. I'm trying to think if I want some more imagery over here or not. I could. Let's do this right here. Let me just take the tops of these trees right here. Let's try to keep it really simple in terms of a scene construction. Okay, so I'm just going to take these. I don't necessarily want that top of that cabin, so I'm going to try to stamp it from here up. And these will just be some background trees, like, maybe at a distant or on another island. Or whatever. It could be another, just, these could all be on the same bit of land, but... it'll just fill in additional imagery over here that can reflect down this lower area. Yes, that was, yeah, the re-inkers. Okay, hello, Sharita. How's Sharita's lab going? I like the off-trail stuff, that's for sure. I used to do longer trail hikes back when I was doing a lot of hiking. And I don't know, somewhere along the line, I figured out, okay, if I do, you're on these trails, on these hikes, some of the trails are really short, but I didn't like really crowded ones. Like super crowded ones for sure. I didn't like that. So if you want a really short hike, there's going to be a ton of people on the trail. But if you go on a longer hike, you might be hiking like 5-7 miles or something like that and get to the destination. And, the destination, if it's a summit, that's where all the, the good part is. But I figured out if I went off trail, sometimes I can get into the really good scenic areas a lot faster, but there was just no trail. So, but there was a lot less effort, kind of like my philosophy with stamping. You want to do less effort for maximum results. Now I think about it, but, or whatever, dramatic results. But yeah, I really enjoyed that style of hiking. So we'd often do like things like, Joshua Tree and just going up into a bunch of rocks and a rock system. And, that one that I was talking about was this place called Sheep Hole Mountain in the Sheep Hole Wilderness. And it was, I think it was only like 3 or 4 miles to the top. But in the last mile, I think there was 2,000 feet of elevation change or something like that. So it's what they call, what is it, class 3 or 4 hiking or something like that. It's basically where you're using hands and feet. You know what I mean? It's not like flat ground or something like that. So it's a lot of rocks and things like that. But really fantastic views. It's all on my Flickr page too. All right, so anyways, I'm taking off some of this ink down here, so I'm transitioning this from wet to medium to dry like that. So hopefully it stamps out dark, medium, and lighter down here, okay? Sometimes I don't remove enough ink because it's like, I'm starting off with a darker ink, and it's kind of thick. So I think I'm being pretty good about removing a decent amount of ink, but then I stamp it out, and it's like, oh, it's like perfectly black from top to bottom still, you know, because I didn't remove enough. And sometimes I remove too much, so I don't know. If that ever happens, you just compensate with, you know, things like colored pencils or something else like that, you know, white pigment ink, and so on and so forth, okay? All right, but do you see, okay, now, so we did that right there, so see how that transitions right there? So see, if I went black from, or full ink, top to bottom, you wouldn't really be able to see the silhouette of this as much, or like say this little whatever porch, you know, covering like that. So see that how it transitions like that. Now I do that in the designs too. It's been designed that way. Do you see how the trees kind of naturally transition from dark to light like that, so that we can see the rooftop easier like that? And then when we're doing this type of thing with the design, if this was solid, we'd have to remove a lot more ink, and it would, you know, we would have to be a lot more kind of, I don't know, whatever, strategic and delicate about removing the exact amount. But see, I've already given us a head start in transitioning from dark to light like that. So it's inherently into the designs like that. So this area right in here, as I'm designing the stamp, it's oscillating from light, dark, light like that, but it's also going from dark to light down here for if we want to use the tops of the trees for those types of situations like that. So it's just not so flat looking, you know. There's a lot of, you know, push and pull in there in terms of whatever, ink density, you know, which translates into kind of visual space. It looks farther back, closer to us, and etc. So little tip there as far as that goes. Okay, so let's take a look at here, and okay, so let's see, this one goes to this one right here, and let's see how that reflection is looking in there, okay? I think it looks pretty decent like that. Before I forget, while I have that StazOn ink out, let's add in a little bit of extra texturing right along the shoreline right here in the shallows, and then this represents something, you know, we're on the shoreline on this side where those trees would be, so we'll use our tiny rock small right in here, okay? Just go for, you're gonna have to go for a little bit of a, I mean, it's not hard or anything like that, but as you do this, don't do like a really definitive impression. Otherwise, what you might get is like this, you know, or a little bit of a streak, you know, or a skew like that. Because remember, this is like, you know, wet ink on, like, it's almost like stamping on like glass or something like that. So it's a little bit slippery. So for me, you just, you know, you got to get a little bit used to it. Yeah. You know, it might take like one impression or something like that. But just keep that in mind, especially if your StazOn ink is like super, super juicy or something. Okay, so see that those textures like that? And those static things that represent something in the water, they reflect really nicely like that. See that right in there? So it looks a little bit more dimensional on that water. You see that right in there? So it creates a little bit of separation from if this was just kind of reflecting like that. Here, let me just move this out like that. Okay, so that's what it looks like without the rocks, okay? And now that's what it looks like with those rocks right on the shoreline. So it's just one of these little details that's really easy to add in there. And see this right here, these rocks right down here? It creates this thing, this parallax type of thing where you have this movement going across like that. This is like pivoting right here, but it makes this look even more like a mirrored type of situation where you have these trees moving against all that, you know, the reflections in the background. You don't even need to really color this. I think it looks pretty cool as is. You can do like a quote stamp up here. You can do a quote stamp. It's dark enough to where you can do one in gold ink too, to reiterate the gold surface down here. I think that would be really cool. I don't like going with quote stamps too low, like, if it was like down here or something like that, because you'd get this upside down word in the reflection down here. But see this right here, my finger right up here, you can't even see it reflecting. Like, see it, you'd have to look at like this. No one's going to look at the card like that either. So see up here, there's nothing reflecting down here because you have this covered with the imagery like that. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Oh yeah, let's do it on this one too. You can go for, multiple impressions to get a little bit of a lighter texture in there too, rock texture. All right, so let's take a look. I always get my bearings every time I add kind of a new element because I kind of want to see what this is going to look like. Maybe I shouldn't have gone with the rocks all out that way. I don't know. Maybe it creates a little bit more separation between land and sky, though. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this one first here. And let's start adding in some tones into this one. Let's go with kind of some earthy colors, but we'll move into those warmer tones like that. I think these are going to be a little bit too bright for this right in here. It might be like too extreme, but we'll knock it back with some, we'll remove some with like a really super light gray or our blending marker right here. And we'll remove some ink if we want to, just to make it a little bit less kind of extreme. But we'll see how this goes here. Okay, so let's see. I do want to bring these colors into it. I mean, there's no rules in doing anything like this, but it's like some of these colors that I'm going to be going with are just super bright, just inherently on their own, like really extreme intensity right there. Okay, but these kind of more mellow ones, like, lighter tones or a brown, we should kind of mellow it out a little bit. Here's a like an olive green too. All right, let's see. Well, you weren't left behind because we waited for you. It was funny though. It was a really memorable moment. I'm sure for that individual too. Now, this individual was a really experienced hiker and had been out with me a lot, many times on my hikes. Usually was with a smaller group, but I was taking a group of I think it was about 20 people. And the one thing that was a little bit kind of, I don't know, not distressing because everything worked out okay, but they knew kind of all the risks on that hike, and they just split off from the group so far that they couldn't see when like a group of like 20 of us are leaving the summit. But we went back a different way though. That was the thing, than the way that we went up. And remember, it was all off trail, and yeah, it wasn't a really good idea. Because a lot of people, I'm presuming they would have been able to find their way back to the cars, but maybe not. you know. I had run back to the cars a couple times from that on that hike where we're like, I can see that we're losing daylight, and it was going to get dark really soon. So sometimes we were like really kind of running to get off this mountain because it's not good to be out kind of in this area that was like all boulders and rocks and having to navigate that in the dark. Okay, so I've left some areas light like that, but you can see where I've kind of just um, okay, I'm forgetting these terms. Scumble. Okay, this is when you scumble around. Okay, like I might be coloring in some of these areas a little bit more, but a lot of the types of colorings that I do is scumbling. Okay, it's where I'm not filling in like whole areas total. I almost never do that because the stamps have different volumes in them, lights and darks already inherently in them. So I usually kind of add color into those darker areas, and I leave these lighter areas. They don't necessarily have to be the bare color of the page, but a little bit more so, because remember, I'm going to blend into those areas too. So I leave those areas a little bit lighter so that these impressions and everything like that look a little bit more three-dimensional. There's more variation in them. Okay, so see this yellow right here. It's just kind of like laying that down. It's almost like you're laying down the ink in some ways. Like you're just pouring some down there or something like that in order to kind of spread it around later. Okay, and that's one of the things that's kind of fun about this type of combination right here between the photo paper and these pens, is because these pens just, the alcohol really sits on the top of the paper really well. It doesn't smear our dye-based inks, our water-based inks, and you can manipulate it after you lay it down there, like perfectly well. So it's a really fantastic combination. And sometimes, I mean, I'm adding this kind of, I'll have some of these trees in the background just more green, but you can almost, maybe not quite, but you can kind of take your blender pen, and if you wanted to, it's like, oh my god, I don't like that color on there, or I liked it just bare. You can almost go in with this pen and just kind of remove it, and just it puts it back, the ink back into solution, but not the dye-based ink, but just the alcohol ink, and you can almost like remove it completely, especially if your blender pen is fairly juicy. Okay, so that was these two colors right here. Okay, the green. Now I'm not going to go into this one with the green because that one's going to be more of a like a fall tone. Maybe this tree behind here too. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. Now you probably can't see too much of a change with that pen that I just laid down right there, or that color. But that's good because I don't like doing like these big, huge changes in either value or intensity too fast. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here as I do this, and hopefully it stays in focus. All right, so let's see. Okay, so we went with these kind of more mellow, kind of earthy tones. Now let's start moving. Let's bump this up in terms of intensity, and we'll move into a different hue here. Okay, with this, much brighter, almost canary yellow here. I'll still retain some of the white of the whatever I get. It's not the white. I want to say the white of the paper, but it's really the lighter tone of the cloud. I don't know, whatever cloud photo print. All right, so that's our yellow right there. See, I'm still kind of leaving a little bit of specks of light in there. And then we'll go to our orange here. Lots of experimenting in Sharita's lab. Sharita went all out. Sharita, have you done some photo stamping yet? I wouldn't be surprised if you did. Yeah, I knew you. Sharita just went right into the the printable vinyl sticker paper, right? You did that technique with the brilliance. Or that was like that's like old stuff for you at this point in time. All right, so a little kind of like spotty types of coloring right here. I'm kind of largely going into the darker areas of that tree, okay? Now this is a real blotchy application of that orange ink, okay? But remember, I'm going to go back and I'm going to blend that out later on. And then we'll layer it with our acrylic paint pens. All right, so I'm just, there isn't a real clear distinction between this tree in the back. And that can just be like an evergreen pine, but I'm going to make kind of some deciduous, whatever, fall colored tree right behind there like that. So see this right here? It's kind of, our cabin's starting to stand out a little bit more too, or a lot more. And okay, here's red. I have a bunch of different oranges here that I never use because I tend to think that they're all kind of similar right here. Okay, the one that I just used was this one. Oh, what the hell? Let's go ahead and use this one. What is this? Vivid yellow. Let's see. Maybe I'll start using this one. I'll start using this one as my blender. Here, let's go into that darker red first and get a little bit more of a deeper shade of something like that. No, okay, so on that hike, not to talk about hiking all the time, but, or on this video right here, but, okay, so we're climbing along on these rocks, like these really rough rocks. And I told people to wear, I said, hey, you know, this is like a desert hike, but don't wear shorts because the rocks are really rough. Sure enough, this one guy, he showed up with shorts, and by the time he got down from that hike, he wasn't complaining at all, but his legs were like really scratched up. Not blood or anything like that. Nothing super bad, but it was really abrasive on that hike. And he told me later, I saw him on another hike of mine at some point in time that I had organized. And he said, yeah, when he took a shower that night, it was like, his lower, whatever, body, legs and everything like that. He said it was, it really stung. I don't think he had been doing a lot of hiking at that point, time. So a lot of people just never heeded those the warnings on these hikes. Some people I went out on some hikes because anyone can sign up, that they that wanted to, but the leaders would typically write in all these things about what to do and what not to do, and we went on some hikes. I went on this hike with this other guy who talks about going to this one summit, and it's there's going to be a lot of exposure, which means that you're walking along somewhere and there's like a fall off points, and we get on like midway on this hike, like 4 miles into it or something like that of a 6 mile hike, and we're heading towards the summit, and it comes out, oh my God, no, I'm like, absolutely terrified of heights. It's like, okay, we sent out like 4 reminders of, what this hike is going to be. Okay, so let's go to this yellow right. Okay, so I have my tree in there. See how it's real kind of solid and there's hardly any form in there, right? So I'm going to go back in here now. Here's with my yellow pen, okay? And I'm going to, it's almost like sculpting in ways. It's like you're just going back into those darker areas. And I am putting back into solution some of that ink that I've laid down, but it's kind of a mixture of the two of them because it's really kind of mixed in there. But yeah, some of it is subtractive, the marks, and I'm getting this nice kind of blend in here, but I still have some of that darker red in the shadow areas right there. I think my camera's exposing for this real bright area right here. Let me change my camera exposure. Okay, that's a little better. You're seeing kind of what I'm seeing here. Okay. See this right here? I want a little bit more light. Okay, so see right here, this is real dark right here. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm kind of just dabbing into it, releasing more and more of this ink, and it's kind of spreading out the ink. So see, I'm revealing some of that lighter area in there again, or just this one right here. That. Okay, now you can't remove any of the dye-based ink impression. I'm just kind of moving around the alcohol ink that's on there, okay? Now, I don't have to go in with this amount of detail. I just think it kind of shimmers a little bit more in the end result, you know, the more kind of ink that you play around with, okay? You could go in here with this one tone and then with your acrylic pens, add in those highlights in there, and that would look cool too. But see, there's all those little variations in there. I mean, those are kind of fun to play around with, and it's almost like kind of a watercolory looking wash type of look that I think is really kind of nice to be able to do with, our existing media. Okay, so this area in here, let's add some additional tones in there. Oh, let's go with... There are some colors that I wish I had a little bit more. Oh, yeah. I have this kind of fleshy tone set that has some nice beige tones in there. Let's just go in there like that. Let's add some value to the cabins, like so. Okay. I'm going to leave that little chimney kind of light like that to be reflecting a lot of that light coming in. Okay, on the shoreline right here, let's get some of that filled in a little bit more. Okay. See this shoreline right here where it's a little bit darker like that? You can hit that with a little bit of a darker tone. Let's see. In many ways, I'm just kind of following the imagery. I'm following my own drawing right here. In terms of the shadow lighting scheme on the imagery right there. So here, this one wasn't dark enough here. Let's go in with, let's bring some green into that. We'll see that there's a little bit of a kind of a grassy area right there. You guys see that little separation right there? And it's going from kind of dark to light like that, so you just kind of go back in. And let's see, I'm looking at some different color choices here. Let's go back to this one right here. I think that was the one that that's a different one that I just laid down, but we'll just introduce another color here. I'm not really particular here. It's not like, okay, grab your Copic number 150 or something like that. I'm just looking for a little bit darker and lighter, roughly of the same color scheme. These aren't Copics, by the way. I just know I was teaching a class at the Copic retreat. Okay, it was just a scenic stamping class, not using Copics. Okay, but I said, well, how many? I was talking to the coordinator. I said, how many? markers are they supposed to bring? And it was like, I don't know, it was like 100 and something, you know, and they were going to use like every single one of those like that. All right, see that like that? That's the reflections down below. We're going to bring more light into it though, with some additional tones here with our markers right here. So we did the same color scheme, just in general. I mean, this was the basic color scheme like this, right? In transparent media, this is the same kind of color scheme with, it's a little bit, it's not quite opaque, you know, but it's pretty close to opaque, you know. It's still translucent a little bit. On this one, I went from light tones, medium tones, darker tones, and then back to light tones back into it because we can do that. Now, we're not going to be doing that with these pens, but I like to have my volumes come out a little bit more. So we're going to go with dark, and then we'll transition into light. So the lightest ones will be built on top of the dark ones like that. Okay. Learn if taking off stays on ink. Oh, with the blender pen, yeah. Yeah, because the alcohol will put the solvent styles of inks back into solution. It's just like cleaning off something, you know, with a, you know, cleaning off, if we took like a Sharpie pen and, you know, it was on glass or something like that, we can take rubbing alcohol and rub it off of the glass like that. But that's a great idea, Candy. All right, failure stops me pretty fast. I miss doing a lot of things I used to do. Less than 40% of my heart, Widowmaker heart attacks are no joke. Hope all's well thereby, or hope I'll get you there. Hope you're able to do your, hope you're able to, good thing stamping's not like a too cardio of an activity there. Huh. But yeah, sorry to hear that. Is it getting better at all now that you've had that, or are you on a good plan? All right, so that was some red right there. So see, it's a little bit of a brighter color over the top of those alcohol inks. Alcohol inks could be really bright too, but I didn't use them that way there. I'm kind of going for this more of an earthy type of application of those things. On this scene too, I was thinking, I wonder if I should use some of those modelers, three-dimensional leaves, like down in this area down here, which might look kind of cool. Okay, so we're going with the orange now. And we'll see how, you know, how much this orange stands out against that background. And well, that will determine just how much I use of it. It's usually not too much, you know, of my darker tones or mid-tones, because it usually doesn't stand out that much. But hopefully you can see that little texturing in there. Here, you can see where I've added those little dots here with this glare on there. Okay, you see how that kind of blends in with that background like that? But see how it's kind of standing out a little bit more? Now when I go into the lighter tones like this and white, those ones are the ones that really stand out a lot more. So I spend a little bit more time probably with these ones in terms of a strategic application of it. Okay. The darker ones, especially like the red, it gives a brightness to it in some areas, but it just, you know what I mean? It doesn't stand out that much, so I don't do too much of that. So I start off with something that's a little bit more, you know, whatever, less visible. Okay. All right, so I have a feeling this yellow might stand out pretty decently on here, but we'll see. Okay. So I'm putting it on the top portions of the trees right here. So see these like areas right in here, the top portions. This one is of course done in blue. on right here, you know, it was on the tops of the trees as well. This is a different stamp right here. These are the night cabins, but on the tops of these branches right here. Okay, so just add it in like that. Just kind of add in a few little dots at a time, you know, just to get your bearings. You can do 2 or 3 dots on a much darker background, and those dots will really stand out by contrast, okay? So you apply a little bit, you know, of a different amount of it, you know, depending on what's going on in the area, you know, in which you're applying it, okay? So in other words, you know, just take a look, hold it at arm's distance, you know, as you work through it. Look at, see, it's looking much more three-dimensional now too. So that's where the tree kind of really came together for me here. At least in this color scheme. Like I said, you can do a much faster version. I'm just trying to work through like a ton of different, you know, colors in this one to make it kind of, you know, like I mentioned, kind of shimmer. All right, I put a couple little highlights up in those trees in there too. All right. I love how those trees look when you kind of build up those little tones like that. Let's take a look. All right. See like that? See how they kind of reflect down here? It reflects more because there's more highlights in there. One of the things too is when we're looking at it like this, it is a little bit of a different look. And then when we put this on there, this is reflecting some light, like warm tone light back up in there too. So this is looking a little bit lighter than what it looks like when we're just like this, I think. Okay. So there's a little bit of a warmer tinge, like it's really glowing like along here too, I think, which is really fun. Okay. So, okay, so that was the colors. Now we're going all the way to white like this. Yeah, yeah, Sharita, I like that that spirit there. I was really happy to see that the printable vinyl holographic sticker paper. It's like, oh, Sharita just got right into it. Oh, no, Sharita, for this, I don't know, Sharita just got it like into what stamping and like crafting in general. And what's it been like 3 months or something like that? We're talking about from scratch too, right? You weren't doing like other types of you know, whatever, painting or anything like that previously, right? Be 4 years, okay. Some folks you have to draw a picture. Doctor says the only thing to do, walk a little bit. Yeah, exercise. Yeah. I started taking this thing called tocotrienols and niacin. It's a little preventative thing. I have like bad genes for my heart, like on both sides of my family, my dad's and mom's side. I think like all the guys, like the uncles, all had like triple and quadruple bypasses. All right, so here's the white. Can you guys see that at all? I think that's probably showing on your screens probably a little bit easier because this is like there's a lot more contrast and white against that background. But see how dimensional you can make your pieces. Now, I mean, you didn't have to go through all those different tones in there. Okay, you can, like I said, you could have just, if you want to make that an aspen tree, you can just color that all yellow or something like that and just hit it with white. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll do that. I'll do like a really super quick version of this scene or this project. You know, it'd probably be like a 10-minute card or something like that. It'd be stamping this out, coloring this tree like one tone of yellow or something like that. Maybe, you know, the ground and trees would get green or something like that. And just hit it with white. Okay, so see this little trunk. One of the things I really like to do is I like to kind of reiterate my tree trunks sometime in white like this. I'm going to put this white like right in there like that, so that trunk kind of, whatever reflects the lighting or whatever, glistens a little bit more. And I'll put a couple trunks right in here too, like that. I don't know, maybe that's too much. Knock that down a little bit. Okay, and see those little posts on the front of the cabin like that? I'm going to bring those out a little bit more in terms of a slight bit of lighting. Because when I colored it in there, I wasn't like trying to avoid these right there. So, you know, I just went in there and just kind of reiterated it again with the white pen. Or this rooftop light here, this roof line. The design itself is lighter like that, so I've colored it in, but you know, I can't like avoid like a tiny, whatever, 32nd of an inch or something like that line on there. So, you know, with the alcohol pen, I don't know, I guess you could, but I don't bother kind of being that careful because I can just come back in and do that type of thing later. But see that little type of thing like that? So it looks a little bit more dimensional maybe. We have these areas down here in the lighter area. You can kind of bring in some highlights into those areas that are just lighter to begin with, you know, because we didn't color it out completely. And we can add in our little highlights back into those, and it'll pay off dividends because any work we put up here reflects down here. So you get two. You get 2 marks for the price of 1 with everything like that. It took, you know, however long to color that, but it's reflected down in the water. You didn't have to do it twice. You know, color, you know, color the reflected area. It's one of the kind of nice things about, you know, the reflection cards is that, you know, maybe you spend a little bit more time doing it because if it was, you know, on the same piece, you'd have to do it twice like that. So see that right there? So see that little trunk right there? You see how it kind of stands out a little bit more, or this post right here is like just a little bit lighter, you know what I mean? So you're kind of doing some things up here. Sometimes it's maybe a little bit more extreme because it reflects better down here. You know, there's a little bit more contrast like that. So those are just like little things that you know, you can do or not. I find them really fun to do, and you know, easy to do. All right, so on all my stuff, I don't know, practically everything, I add in a little bit of extra texturing and lighting. So everything right here is really crisp looking, and I think it looks fine, you know, as is. But these cloudy types of texturing right here, I really like to bring some of that into my foreground and do that thing where you kind of envelop your imagery a little bit more. I think it makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional sometimes like that. And that's what we're kind of going for, you know, a lot of times in our pieces, we're going for this, you know, representation of depth in a scene. And this is like a super easy way to do that. And it could be something that's really, really subtle if you want to, or you can make it more extreme. All right, so 100% cotton ball, white pigment ink. I'm using the Brilliance, which is a water-based pigment ink, so it'll dry on here really fast. But I find that when you do this really thin layer of media on surfaces that are traditionally known not to be able to accept and dry on them, to work just fine on this. So in other words, if I was going with a white pigment ink, oil-based pigment ink, Hero Arts, Hero Hues, you know, the Unicorn, or whatever, basically every other pigment ink than this, I've used it, you know, for 20 years on things like glossy cardstock. The things that, you know, certain types of inks, you know, white pigment, or just pigment inks in general, won't dry on. They don't dry on like glossy cardstocks or maybe something like that. That's if you make an impression with a stamp into here. But when you're just adding like a really light layer that's like super, super thin, I find that it dries just fine on there. Okay, so that being said, let's add in some of this ink right in here. And you can see where it's kind of altering my impression slightly, like that. See where it's kind of faded out now a little bit more. So again, it's just kind of introducing this this mist, or the same vapor that is creating our clouds, right? You know, our printer ink created the clouds, but I'm talking about, you know, out in the world, of, you know, it's moisture in the air that's suspended in the air that's being illuminated, and that makes, you know, so you can see those clouds out there. So this is what this is representing, the same type of thing, but we're putting it in front of the imagery now. So here's trees like that, and those trees, again, I think they look fine just as is, but let's bring in a little bit of some of this pigment ink right on some of those trees now, like this. And so I'm not doing it over the whole tree like that. I think that looks good with some contrast right there. See that right there? That side of that tree now looks like it's catching some of that light. Let's do this right here. Let's do a mask. Let's mask off this rooftop like this, and let's bring some of this right in here like this. All right, so see, doesn't that tree look like it's a little bit farther behind the cabin like that? We can mask off some of this tree right here. And let's do this thing where we bring in some of this pigment ink, like right in between one tree and the other, or the others, like something like that. Now see, doesn't that kind of push that tree back a little ways? Let me see, let me do a little bit better blending right here. It's more not really so much blending, but transitioning. So I kind of put in some of that cloud coming in from right in there. And let's see, let's do a little bit right back in here. See that little tree right down there? I'll just have that tree a little bit kind of obscured with some mist like that. Now it's coming right in here too. We have some mist right here, or white ink like that. I'll leave that as is, and we'll just come with some right down here. So you sacrifice some clarity there, you know, really sharp rock, you know, it's well defined, you know, for, you know, a little bit more like atmosphere, you know what I mean, or something like that. You know, there was crisp little highlights of white on there, but I don't know, it looks a little bit more dimensional now, you know, that impression just by putting on a little bit of ink like that. See, something like this. This would be a perfect spot right here for like a quote stamp, wouldn't you think? Something about lighting or, you know, I don't know, something like this too. I find it, you know, if I was doing this like for a sympathy card or something like that, I think I would bring in a little bit more mist and, you know, make it look a little bit more serene or something like that. And something like this too. I was thinking about having like, I don't know if I'm going to do it here, but here's this little paddle border. I might put her in there. I'm not sure. I was sure I was going to put a paddle border in here somewhere. I might decide on that later though. But see, when you put something like this in here, again, they're kind of something that's really, they look real three-dimensional in there. But I'm taking a look at this right here. If I put that paddle, I don't want anything to obscure my reflections, okay? So that's one of the things that you know, you might want to think about when you're doing these reflection cards like that. The things that you stamp down here, like, you don't want to obscure any of the, maybe the strongest reflective elements from up top right here. So if there's a cabin right here, or if you had like a, I don't know, whatever, something that's reflecting down there and it looks really cool, then don't stamp something down here over the top of it, okay? Something like this, like if you have a little fisherman sitting right here, you know, in the foreground, in these shallows right that, you know, wading in the waters like that, I think that'd look pretty cool. But this is like prime real estate, I think, for like a quote stamp or a word stamp. But I'll decide on that later. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a comparison contrast with this. I don't think I need to do too much with this one right here because, you know, I'm not going to lay down a ton of color in here, but I do like to add in some of that extra contrast in here. So see this right here, this cabin doesn't stand out quite as much. It's a little bit more of a quiet, somber, I don't know if it's somber, but type of thing. Could be like the lake in two different times a day. It's like, this one's like past twilight or something. But, okay. So let's add in some of our little details into this one right here. I think I'm going to do like some sort of reverse quote up that way, like that. Let's see. Oh, you've been stamping for a year now. My time flies now, Sharita. See, like that first time when I don't know, whatever, we were in contact, it was like it seemed like it was like a couple months at that point in time. Okay, white pastel pencil. Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying the tutorials. So what should Sharita try out, everyone? There we have some like really experienced stampers in here. Sharita, have you done embossing? I don't know if you like, you know, but that was one of those big things in rubber stamping that a lot of people got into rubber stamping. I wouldn't say solely because, but that was like a big reason why they kind of took up the hobby, and you know, just in general, they just love that technique of embossing. We're talking about heat embossing with the powders, which not a lot, you know, not a lot of people do anymore. Some people do. I've asked that before, and some people said they do. But I don't think it was like in the, not quite like, probably not. Just in terms of the stamping public or crafting public in general. Not just like we were doing, like in those, I don't know, when did that, it was big in the 90s, throughout the 90s. Was it, did it go did it kind of go into the, you know, the early 2000s as well? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I'm adding in some of these highlights. That's a little bit too light right there. Pastel pencil, you can just knock it down, you know. If you add in too much, you can remove everything if you want to. I'm trying to create, I haven't practiced a lot with pastels, so I'm trying to really transition things from, you know, kind of a decent range of, you know, um, values within a short space. So I'm trying to transition from fairly light to kind of a little bit less light right here. And then of course depends where I'm working on the page. Like this area is a darker area, so I'm not going as bright as this area because that would really stand out a little bit too much, I think. Let's see here. I think that's all I'm going to do down there. Okay, let's take a look and see. See, something that this got a lot lighter looking with this reflecting golden light back up in there. Look at that, really, I love this area right here where it transitions right here with this gold light, you know, kind of bottom lighting that area a little bit more. Okay. White paint pen, okay. Stent in my main artery. Okay, I didn't even realize I was having a heart attack. It's a good thing they got that in there, huh, Bonnie? One of my other customers had like 2 stents, but they just had a bypass done. Just one of those things, you know, doesn't smoke. I don't know if they drank or, you know, either exercise and everything like that, but just she has a family history of it and went in there. But hopefully you won't have to have that. All right, see that white coming in here again, like that? Maybe we'll make this snowy one. I do like that. I do like those kind of more antique-looking, sepia-ish color schemed, like winter types of scenes. You know, just like it looks a little bit more antiqued, or you know, I guess a lot more antiqued when we're starting off with this, you know, this type of paper right here. Okay, let's do that same thing with our trunk. Okay, so as I say that, I'm thinking, is this gonna stand out too much? We'll see. So I'm kind of pulling out those lines again, like on that other one. But instead of going a little bit more definitive, I'm doing this like this little check thing like this. So if I'm doing like a mark, what you do is you do like a golf swing. You're taking like a couple check swings like that. And then I go down and I'm, you know, going like that. So you get that transitioning line as opposed to like one straight one. Like that, okay? And then remember, if you lay this down on this type of paper, if you just kind of wipe it off right away, it'll come right off. You know, don't leave it down there for too long, you know, that, you know, it'll dry and adhere on there. But if you just kind of wipe it like immediately, you're good. All right, so see that little tree in the background like that, and here's the other deciduous right here. I don't want to add too much to that, at least in, you know, immediately. I want to take a look and see how that's looking. Okay, like that. All right. It's looking a lot like a kind of wintry type of scenario, the more of this white that I add in here, as opposed to it just kind of representing lighting. It looks more like, you know, like frost or something like that. That'd be cool too, you know. You can add like a full moon up here or something like that, just with some pigment ink. That would look really good too. But I think I want, I don't know. God, that now I think about that moon might up there might be pretty cool. Oh, so here's the thing though. Speaking of a moon, if I add that in here, I like to have the moon reflecting down here in the water. So if I put it up here again, you can't really see the reflection of it. Okay, so if I had it, I think I would add it like here, like rising from behind the trees. Okay. But anyways, you see all these trees reflect in the water now with that highlighting on there like so. A lot better. Let me try to hit this one kind of eave area or whatever you call it. The eave is underneath there, right? Let's see, that's a little bit more so we can see that rooftop a little bit more like that, especially in that reflected area like that. All right, so I'm going to do something on this one just for kicks too. Let's hit it with this one right here. The Dr. Martens. Oh, I didn't clean out my splatter painting brush. Where'd my splatter painting brush go? I think I'm going to do this. I just saw that brush somewhere. I might not be doing it. I think this white will stand out on here pretty decently. The one thing about doing the white, though, sometimes if I splatter paint it, I don't leave room for like a word stamp or a quote stamp because I don't want a bunch of like splatter, you know, textures running through a bunch of letter forms, word, you know, things like that. Because especially in lowercase, it looks like you've dotted something, you know, like a letter. Two pads of the white ink. Oh, yeah. The white ink right here. The cotton one and this one. I had to clean this one off too often, you know, when I was stamping out impressions with this one right here. Or this one. It was too furry with my cotton. Okay, I have this trash can right here. I'm just flicking off all of my dried paint off of this one. I usually rinse this off. The Dr. Martens bleed proof white, by the way, you can leave it sitting in your brushes or something like that, you know, without cleaning them and let it dry completely. Don't do that if you're using something like an acrylic paint on the brush for your splatter painting. But this one just, it reconstitutes and it washes, you know, out of the brush or whatever you're using with it very, very easily. Okay. When acrylic paints or something like that dry in your brush, it's like hardened, solidified plastic. Hard to remove from like bristles of a brush. You can remove, you know, like acrylic paint from like a plastic, you know, paint tray or something like that because it comes off like a, you know, a solid piece of rubber or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to splatter paint this over this whole thing, just kind of make it look more like snowflakes. It's not supposed to be stars or anything like that. Okay. Okay, I removed too much paint here. I was being chicken here. My paint is fairly thick, so I'm not sure what's going to come off of there. Okay, I'm not getting too many of the large dots. Sometimes I get a little bit more variation with the splatter. I think it's getting a little bit too thick. I don't know. Can you see that at all? Like that? You can't really see it over here because there's just too much there's not enough contrast, but there's some splatters in there. Okay. I don't want to splatter that. I can dilute that a little bit. Ow. Should I? Yeah, here, I'm just going to add it in my hand here. So I get a little bit more of a random kind of application of it. And I'll come in with this one and add in some larger, whatever, snowfall. This is the hardest thing right here. It's to not apply this in such a, a definitive pattern, but to kind of keep it a little bit more random looking. You can see mine are all like a 1/4 inch apart from each other. So it's like you kind of cluster it a little bit too. And see, these larger ones might represent like a little bit of a, a larger piece of snowfall or something like that. It might look more like a Charlie Brown, Christmas or something like that in terms of that snowfall, but it kind of gives it a little bit more depth. Sometimes, I even do that little trailing little dot, 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 coming off of the large ones. Okay, I'm going to leave this kind of area right here, kind of a little bit blank right here. Again, for some, potential word stamp or quote, maybe. Like that. And let's see if that shows up here in our reflected area. Okay. Yeah, you can see some of that, kind of shining down there. I like that kind of glow, though. I like that extra warmth that this gold is giving to that, especially that little space right in there. Like that. All right, so there's that one. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like this one more than this one, because I like both now quite a bit. I'm not sure. I don't know, the color. It's tough to beat that color in those clouds up there, but this one has its own kind of, I don't know, spirit to it. It doesn't even look like the same cabin to me. For some reason, this cabin looks on my right hand looks smaller to me for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it's obviously the same stamp, but it just looks a little bit different to me for some reason. Let's see here. Okay, so what I do with these, I like using a spray sealant on the back of this, and then when you add this in here, just kind of have this a little bit folded, and then get it right into that little spot, and then lay it down like that. You might be using like your tape runners or something like that too. Sometimes with my tape runners though, if I don't use a spray adhesive, like tape, like right on the corners, it gets a little floppy to me sometimes if I look at the piece like after, I don't know, whatever, a couple months or something like that. It's like there's been like some expansion and, I don't know, whatever, retraction or whatever you call it, with the media on here. It's the foil or something like that might be a little bit it's thicker and it doesn't expand and contract, the same or as something else. So sometimes, I cut the paper out and it's nice and flush, but then I just use my tape runner, but then I get this little overhang showing or something like that. So I just use my spray adhesive these days. Okay, but there's your 2 reflection cards like that. Pretty, I'll do it like I'll do it like a 15-minute version of these pieces right here for some quick cards, because I know it can be done. But I just really wanted to see kind of a full application of that warm type of autumn tones with this cabin right here. And if I put more of them over here, it would give me more opportunities for more of that. It doesn't, if you add more of these trees like this, like say there was 3 of these, it doesn't take 3 times as long because you're just coloring it up, all together at the same time. So I wouldn't worry about that, in terms of if you work through like all those transitions of colors like I did with the alcohol inks and acrylic pens. All right, now I'm overexposing with my camera here a little bit. Okay, there we go. 'Cause the white paper of my page isn't showing up, overexposing too much here. Let's see. Which spray seal do you use on this? Okay, on this one right here, it would be the spray fixative. I don't know, it's a spray fixative with a V as in Victor, but Krylon calls it a spray fixative, you know, with an F as in Frank at the end of it. But I'm finding that the sealants, though, now you don't need to do any sealant on this one right here, because, you know, if you use that media that I used, especially with the water-based white pigment ink, you know, I don't even know if you'd need to do it with like a, you know, like Hero Hues or anything like that, that really thin layer of pigment ink on here. I don't find it, you know, when you touch it to be like powdery and wiping off or anything like that. It might. But I'm starting to kind of become a strong believer in the spray fixative for just about every usage. I really like the look of the spray fixative. When I was spraying something on this mirrored cardstock, I found that it didn't manipulate the surface like one of the glossy ones. You would think spraying this area down here. Now sometimes I do, because sometimes I put my Brilliance ink behind like a rock, and then I stamp my images over the foil, so I need to lock them down. The Brilliance inks don't adhere to this foil like this, like a StazOn does. So sometimes I would, you know, I would have thought the glossy would give me kind of a glossy or glassy finish on that sealant, but I found that the spray fixative seems to do a better job of that, maybe because it goes on much thinner. But spray fixatives are typically matte, so I just assumed a gloss would look better on a glossy, you know, mirrored surface. But I think it's still the spray fixative works really good for that. So all the other kind of gloss sprays look great on glossy cardstock, though. Or if you don't like working on glossy cardstock, but you like the look of a glossy finish, you can work on a semi-gloss cardstock. Use all that different media that a semi-gloss allows you to use that a glossy paper doesn't allow, like, for example, like colored pencils. And you can spray your semi-gloss cardstocks with a glossy spray and give it a couple coats, and it looks more glossy. Then you can have like a glossy, postery, you know, type of book cover, you know, movie poster look to your other papers. I probably wouldn't do like a matte paper, because you'd have to use like a ton of your sealant, you know, your gloss sealant, because it's going to be absorbing. And, you know, if you want to build up a matte to a gloss finish, you'd really have to spray a lot on there. You know, if you're going to do something like that, just go with a Krylon triple thick or something like that. That's like super, super thick, and it's really inexpensive. But again, you know, I think it's just faster if you start off with a semi-gloss cardstock for that type of look. Glad you like the look, Sharita. Let's see, was that referring to the vintage one or the colored one there? The cabin looks like it's sitting on top of a high mountain. Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, I like that take right there. So it could be like one of those alpine lakes or something like that. This would look really good if you did, or this one right here, if you just stamp like a mountain in the background, like the tall peak. I would put the tall peak right back up in there. And that would really make it look like real super alpine, like that up in high elevation or something like that. But again, yeah, I want to use something. This one right here, too, might look interesting. You can stamp like a sailboat right here on the edge, and then that would reflect down here. So it would be like this boat right here, except don't stamp the reflection down, you know, that shadow, but that could go right here too, you know, and then you'd have it reflecting perfectly in this area right here. So I don't know if I want to do that one though. Maybe I'll do it on the. I really like those clouds right there transitioning, down in that area like that. So I just want to leave it open like that. But I don't know. So you do these types of things, and it's like, oh, I want to do like this one with the mountain now, and I want to do this one with that sailboat on the horizon like that, or something like that. So this one, the clouds were kind of coming in from. It's probably a cloud stamp or print. Those clouds, I'm probably stamping it upside down. You know what I mean? Where this was like the lighter area in here, and this is the lower, but here I have it like that. But if you have like some stronger kind of billowy clouds like this, cumulus clouds with like the really bright blue up here, maybe instead of using gold, use a silver instead in, a really blue white type of cloud print or something like that. But I think that would look really cool too. And sometimes if you have like stronger contrast running through here, let's say you had some open blue sky showing in here in combination with some white clouds, that blue is going to show right through these trees in here. But if you cover them up with some of that alcohol ink, the blue will still show through because alcohol inks are transparent. But if you hit it with the, the acrylic paint pens right there, right over the top in that highlight, it should cover it up pretty good. And I think you'd be able to do that too. Let me see. A research today ordered the white pastel pencil use. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that white pastel pencil, the Stabilo Carbothello, huh? It's a nice, the one thing that's easy to use about this one for me, unlike like say a Conte pencil, Conte crayon or something like that, or a white colored pencil, is that this one is really soft and it seems to transfer pretty well onto these papers that aren't necessarily super porous, okay? So a nice porous paper, with some tooth to it, can take a lot of different pastels, but, the more smooth and sealed off you get, like something like that, the softer this, your media has to be, like colored pencils or something like that. I've tried some, I think, white colored pencil on the night. I think I can get a little bit of a mark on there, but the paper's almost too smooth for it. I can get a little bit on there, but I can't build up too much on there. So, yeah, these pencils aren't inexpensive. But I think you can get a lot of scenes out of one. I think they sell them. Did you buy them in like a 3-pack or something, Candy? But I think I saw like a set of these ones. You know, I don't know. I might have to consider it though because I really like this one. This one's like, it's probably, I don't know. I probably bought this like in the 80s or something like that. It has this little tag on here. That was the price tag for this place called the Art Supply Warehouse. That was right next to Long Beach State. It's where people mostly bought their art supplies. There were a lot of art stores back then, though. So many stores are gone. I don't buy a ton of the colored embossing powders, mostly clear, black, and white. That's what I have too. And then I think I have silver and gold. Those are like my base colors. That goes for the pads too. I don't get a lot of I don't have a lot of like pigment ink pads. It's like white, black, gold, and silver on those ones. You know, the metallics are like that. Let's see, lizard. Hello, lizard. The word wizard. That's a cool name. Very light. I've been using Sakura Jelly Roll Classic. Okay, yeah. Yeah. This Sakura. We talked about that one on a previous live stream, right? The Sakura, those jelly rolls are amazing, in terms of lasting power and whatever longevity. That's the way. I wish that was the way all media should be. That's the way all like gel pens should have been. Yeah, I don't know what's in those jelly rolls that in that ink that makes them, I don't know, seemingly just never clog. Some of those early gel pens, I wouldn't say just early, but I don't know. There was like a 10-year span after those gel pens came out, especially those big, huge, like discount sets. I bought like sets of them at like Costco before. I didn't get home and bust open the pack and try it out, but they probably didn't sit around for longer than like a couple months. And some of those sets, it's like they didn't work from like day one, like the entire set, which was like really discouraging. Not very good. Spray adhesive or spray seal, same thing. Uh, or I use okay. Are you talking about those sealants? So I use the spray adhesive to lock these down in here, and I use the sealants to seal off, like the on this case it's the pastel that's been applied on top of that. So for my spray adhesive, I use the 3M, and for my sealants, I don't know. I use mostly the Krylons. There's other types of art brand sealants, but I find them to be a lot more expensive. I don't know what they were. They were, one of those companies like, what are some of those big names in the art supplies? I haven't been using them for a while. So, Winsor Newton or something, you know what I mean? That type of thing. But the Krylon triple thick, Krylon spray fixative, Krylon what is that? UV something. That one's one of my favorites. And then there's just Krylon Crystal Clear. I don't know if the Krylon Crystal Clear is supposed to be archival or not, or if it yellows over time. The other ones are kind of a little, or the triple thick either, but I don't care about that type of thing, so much. It was only when like scrapbooking came in, it's like everything had to be archival, And I get it, you don't want something yellowing in like a couple years and you're using photographs in there. It's like, I saw them as like heirloom types of things, but if I use like a Krylon, crystal clear or something like that, if it, there's a slight kind of tinge of, yellowing to it, in 30 years, not something I really care about. But you know what I mean? But, the Krylon Crystal Clear and Krylon UV spray ones, that are archival, it's only like a difference of like a couple bucks, and you can probably get 100, cards out of each one of those cans. So it's really not a big jump in price or something like that if you divide it, in between, amongst all the cards that you're going to be spraying with those. Glad you like it, Cynthia. Yeah. Hello, Bill. Started new cancer treatments today and need to sleep. Get some good recovery sleep there, Bill. Hope that you don't have too many, lingering side effects from that, undesirable side effects, from that. All right. So anyway, there's your reflection cards. Pretty easy to do. Okay, right? A lot of people find these very intimidating. It's usually if I show, but on here, it's just stamping on top of it like that. There's one impression right here. So that's one stamp and one impression. What do we have? Like 2 impressions down here. Maybe it was 3 using the pines and rocks, and then some of the little tiny rocks, small like that, just combined like that. And, I think these reflection cards are more than the sum of their parts, you know what I mean? It really makes something kind of dramatic for, the viewer to open up something like that. First of all, light kind of reflects out from the inside of the card when they're opening something like that up, which is kind of fun. It's like light coming from within the card. You can put your sentiment on here. Remember, this doesn't have to be black right here. You can do any kind of card base, but on the interior of your card, whatever color card you're going with, if it's not a black cardstock, then take you know, whatever, a black pen, Sharpie pen or something like that, and underneath this, or right in this crease right here, add a black line down there. Do it before you adhere the you know, the gold in there, so that you don't have this, you know, like, you know, you don't want to have like this white space showing, you know, in between the reflective area and your top card. And sometimes it gets that way, even if it's like a little sliver of a, you know, like space like that. See, that's black right there, and that shows. Now I'm being extreme like that, but see, like if you go like that, like a real thin type of thing like that, see, like that over by the rocks, it doesn't look as bad, but if that was white, it really stands out sometimes. So just, you know, just do a black line down, make it pretty thick, and then, you know, then adhere your pieces in there. So if you get a little bit of space, you know, in between those areas, it doesn't, again, it won't show up. It won't look like this obtrusive kind of line getting in between there like that. But anyway, and you can do a lot of these too. Someone asked me if I sell these card bases for the reflection cards. And, you know, just so easy to do. You know, just maybe get a bunch of them. You just cut it. This one's like standard quarter page right here. You know, just your card base is a half page, and then your quarter page, you know, of reflection. You can do like, I don't know, several of these all at the same time. And I don't know, it just really makes it go really fast. And you can do them, like, again, you can do them in the silver or the gold, or I don't know if you have any other types of reflective mirrored types of stocks. And I don't know if like a super light blue one exists out there, but I think that would be really cool. But I don't know if they have that, but it would have to be reasonably light enough to be able to reflect what you have going on down here. If you have a reflective area down here that's like a darker reflective foil or something like that, then maybe you just do reverse impressions of something like, you know, like these trees down here, you'd stamp them in white up here so that it'd reflect a little bit more strongly into a darker colored foil. I don't know if that works or not. I haven't tried that, but I think that would be pretty cool if it did. So, all right, folks, thanks again for joining in. If you haven't tried a reflection card before, I've always recommend it. I think they look pretty dynamic. And, you know, to people that I've sent these out to, they really like them. First of all, they, you know, I don't know, I've seen people starting to do them, like in the Facebook group, but I don't know, they just make for an easy type of card to do, especially, like I said, everything's just, it's mirrored down in that lower area, so you have all that stuff going on down there that you didn't have to create because it's just reflected down there. So you get double your, you know, your whatever money's worth out of your efforts there. All right, thanks everyone. Hope you like the cards. Maybe I'll put a survey up on something. Which card do you like, or which composition do you like better? There's a little bit more to this one with the additional, you know, the trees like that. But, you know, I didn't have this kind of like interesting area of the clouds like that on this paper right here. It was just all dark, so, you know, stands out a little bit. Drop me a note if you have any questions, you know, if you have any questions on, you know, the inks or something like that, you know, you want to say, oh, wait, what ink was used on what paper or something like that. I want to watch through that whole video again. Just drop me an email or comment on the video and I'll, you know, we'll get you pointed in the right direction. Okay. All right, everyone. Have a great night.